Okay, great. I believe that everyone is here. And first of all, giving you a warm welcome to this presentation where Jos will be presenting to you the research that has been done until now on this network in understanding the current state of systems innovation. And we're very also open to hearing your input here and there in this session, and we will let you know when the interactive parts will come throughout this session, but then we'll start with Jos giving us his insights and presentation around the paper that has also been published. So first of all, very warm welcome to everyone. And I hope that you will enjoy and make use out of this session. And I'm going to send the Miro board link in the chat. And I hope that everyone can access this link. I'll share it again. Great. There's a lot of diversity here from what I see in the chat, all of the different locations. And I hope that you can access the Miro board. And if not, also feel free to write in the chat. So introducing myself, I'm going to be a co-host of this session. And I will also be looking through the chat if there are any questions that need to be answered also towards the end. And so yes, also the purpose of this session is to share the research with you. And I'm very happy to share this research with you and welcome you all again. We want to start with an interactive part, just to get us warmed up. What is your main reason for joining today? And you may take a sticker here to just have a bit of that interactive warm-up session and get to know you a bit better. So hopefully you can access this Miro board, or if not, then write in the chat for us to get to know you a bit better. What is your main reason for joining today? We'll just take a few seconds more. And I'll start to read a few of them, if you don't mind, to have a better understanding on the research behind the paper, very important, and to hear about what SI is going on, to learn something new, to learn more about the SI network and the current state of systems innovation, innovation for the pharmaceutical industry, to have an overview of general trends of the field of systems innovation, which is definitely evolving for sure. Yes, so learn more about the state. And great. Researcher, systems innovator joining to connect with the network, see what the SI state of the movement is, and also the SI network's perspective as well. So thanks everyone for writing down all your comments, and I think we got to know you quite well already and hope to get to know you better. So I'll pass this on to Jos Colchester, who started this SI network 8 years ago and will explain more about the state of systems innovation from the SI network's perspective.
Great, thank you very much, Anya. Hopefully, my audio and everything is good today. It's great to see everyone here. So many people, actually. We're over 50 people already. And really excited to share this with you, what we've been working on. So if you're looking for the paper, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll find the link here on this image. It'll take you to the website. You can download the PDF. It's a nice, simple guide, so it's not heavy reading. It's everything we'll be looking at today, right? So we're going to walk through it in the coming hour and discuss each section so that you get better insight into that. And I look forward from hearing from you. You can put your questions in the chat as we go along. Anya can pick those up. We'll be stopping periodically every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You can also unmute yourself when we get to those places, and we'd love to hear your feedback. And just say that the session's being recorded for those who can't make it. So here we are, State of Systems Innovation. It's a preliminary review of the state of this emerging field we call systems innovation. We understand ourselves Systems Innovation Network, right? Myself and Anya and the rest of the team, what we're doing is trying to build this emerging field, this capacity for systems level innovation. And we thought it then only appropriate that we do a review of or an assessment of some kind. This is a very preliminary, I would say, assessment of where we might be in the development of this new field. And what does that look like? So there's all sorts of challenges there, particularly doing this for the first time in the context of an emerging space that's very, very fuzzy, very nebulous in many ways. So we have to talk about what do we mean by systems innovation, what's our assessment framework, where are we getting the data, so on and so forth. So lots of challenges, we'll walk through those, but also some really interesting insights. So definitely, you know, this comes with a warning, should we say, or you know, asking you to be critical thinkers as we go through this, and think about, you know, does this make sense? Is the data come from the right places? What are the kind of biases and so forth? Because it's a very early stage of this assessment, we would ask you to bring that critical thinking to it so that you can take away what's of real value to you. It is an MVP, should we say. It's the first iteration of this, and inevitably has flaws. We're really excited about where this can go in the coming years in terms of helping us get a better view of what we mean by the landscape of systems innovation, who's out there, what's going on, and so forth. But as mentioned, early days. So that's that. It's a framework for assessing this emerging field of systems innovation. And in the future, I mean, this was an MVP. We put it together. We collated the data that we have. We wanted to share that with you. In the future, we hope to better co-create this with you. So this is an opportunity today to hear from you. What's missing? What do you think could be improved, and so forth? We'd love for you to post up your ideas here, and we can discuss that as we go along. I'll just start by the first section here. You know, we've got a frame. If we talk about assessing something, we've obviously got to say, what are we trying to assess? Not always clear. If it was a well-defined field, then it might be a lot easier. In an emerging practice like this, it gets a little bit more challenging. So firstly, what do we mean by systems innovation? It's an approach to innovation based upon systems thinking that's designed to better address complex, wicked challenges by aiming to innovate and change systems rather than innovation in individual products and services. It's a type of innovation that seeks to change the dominant paradigm of thinking within the system and the way the parts are organized and interrelated so as to realize the emergence of new functions and capacities, and ultimately a new system over time. So that's what we're talking about when we say systems innovation. It's shifting up from individual products and service innovation to a systems level innovation. It requires new ways of thinking, systems thinking, new ways of organizing in more open and collaborative and networked ways of doing things. The field itself may be new, but the whole area of systems thinking is not, stretches way back. We do a little diagram here. to help you think about that. So systems thinking goes all the way back to the mid-20th century and has evolved since that time. We show on the top here kind of societal and organizational changes or important ideas and developments there on the top, and on the bottom more science and technology changes that have contributed to this. So in the mid-20th century, complexity, well, the 2000 or 1970s complexity science came along, and nonlinear science, should we say, and made a big breakthrough. That was the next big breakthrough after systems thinking, systems theory in the mid-20th century. You can see a lot of ideas contributing there. System science and cybernetics originally, and information theory. Complexity science came along, and really in the 1970s, nonlinear science really took off. You've probably heard of chaos theory and all of this. In the 2000s, we got into network science and social network analysis and all of this. And systems change started to emerge with Donella Meadows, important publications around leverage points, around that book, Thinking in Systems. That was maybe the 1970s, 1980s. And we had a lot of stuff going on up here. Also, not going to go into everything. Systems innovation is a bit newer as a term. I'd say it's just the past 20 years or so. And it's obviously kind of intersecting with broader things that are going on out there in the world, particularly the rise of innovation and startup ecosystems, and this new kind of terminology and ideas that have become very popular. And it's that intersection of innovation, the rise of innovation economies, and that whole cosmos of ideas and systems thinking, and asking how we can do an innovation that's more transformative, more about changing systems. And that's where we are. So we say emerging fields. This is very new. And just to give you over here, I'll give you a sense of, how emerging it is. So this is a little bit of data taken from Google's Ngram, where they're looking at books over the past 60, 70 years there, and how many times these words appear. We can say systems thinking is massive compared to systems innovation and systems change. So you talk about popularity. You could go into an organization, at least here in London or the UK, and you'd probably find people who have heard about systems thinking, but very few who have heard about systems innovation, just to give you a sense of that. Okay, so there's different ways of understanding it, right? And what we talk about space, I mean, one way is talking about what it's trying to do, the kind of problems and approaches that it's addressing and the methods it's using. This is one way of looking at it, right? From parts to systems up here, and linear versus nonlinear. So saying down here, you got linear kind of change in parts, very traditional kind of management stuff. Over here, up here, you've got trying to change systems, but very much a linear approach. So it's a lot of what kind of governments would try and do with big programs and changing industries and so forth. But it's very linear in nature, even if they're looking at the larger scale. Over here, it's more nonlinear, but it's still products and services, might be something like design thinking, it's iterative and so forth. Up here, we might have something around systems innovation, which is actually a nonlinear approach to trying to change systems. That's just a little schema. It's just one way of thinking about it. To give us a sense of what we mean by an emerging landscape, a new space that's forming, a new capacity that's forming. How can we really address systems change in kind of a non-linear emergent approach with these systems ideas, and how that differs from other areas? And of course, this is a growing field, right? Increasingly, people, organizations are recognizing challenges are complex. I mean, these linear approaches don't work. A lot of stuff the governments do, big programs and so forth, big industry transformations and so forth aren't really addressing the systemic challenges. We need new ways of collaborating, new ways of working together, new ideas. So this is a growing space, I would say, of people and organizations recognizing that we need a different approach. So contributing areas, right? That's another way of looking at it. What's contributed to this? And this is kind of the model we use at SI to structure a lot of our content around systems thinking, top left there. All those ideas and complexity science Top right is more around systems analysis and understanding complex systems, systems mapping, and so forth. Bottom right is the whole area of systems change and maybe co-design. Also, it's all about transitions, wiki problems, leverage points, different models like 3 horizons that are helping us understand transition processes within complex systems, two loops model. Over here on the left bottom is more around ecosystem building and systems building, and all of those ideas there, platforms, networked organizations, systemic investing, systems entrepreneurship, and so forth. So again, this, that's an incomplete picture. There's many other ways of looking at it, but again, it can help us give a kind of an understanding of what we're talking about here. So we've seen that one. Yes, we know that systems thinking hugely popular. We asked our community. So some of the data's a few different sources. We'll talk now about the sources of the data, but this is one of them. Maybe I'll get to the end here, Anya, before we have a bit of interactivity. So this was just a quick question we did in the community. What's the difference between systems change and systems innovation? So a lot of people ask that. Because we're not assessing for systems change in this guide. It is about systems innovation. Those are obviously very closely related. So a lot of people ask that question. And the best way to answer is maybe with this poll that we did. 7% said there's no difference. 55% said systems innovation is a more specific approach to systems change that's focused on innovation, the creation and application of new ideas via entrepreneurship. 21 said systems change is more about people and collaboration, while systems innovation is more about design and technology-focused approach to change. And 15 said others. So that's that. I'm not going to go into that discussion too much, but we could, start a bit of interactivity if there are questions this time. Are there any questions, Anya?
No, just a matter of visibility. There's the option to turn off everyone's cursor while sharing the screen.
Okay, yes, good point. Sorry. Maybe we'll just collect any ideas you have so far. If you'd like to come on the board here, we'll just take 2 minutes here. If there's anything you'd like to share so far, with the rest of us about what you're seeing here, what you're thinking about, what you're interested in, what sparked your interest, and so forth. Let's just take 1 minute to post your ideas there. Take a look at what you're thinking about. Would love if you could share that. Okay, should we take a look? What people would consider as entrepreneurship in the survey answered on the left. So not a definition question, but common perception question. I don't think any of the answer covers what systems innovation is. I love it how different disciplines and people coming from different walks of life merge together into this concept, as I have. The vision of systems transformation is easy to sell, but I often work in systems that reward myopia. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that, and stay posting up. So also thanks for the helpful framing with the timeline and linear X level graph. Thoughts on the text? Okay, we'll stay going. Maybe come back to this afterwards. Systems innovations about designing a more open environment, allowing diverse thinking. Great. So let's stay going. That was just a little bit the framing. And we'll move on to the next section. So what's the model we could possibly use for trying to assess things here? And again, we're trying to get this holistic view. It's not simple. We're far from kind of figuring it all out. We'll just show you a few of where the data came from, and some of the ways that we're assessing this. So firstly, we're talking about capacity. So what do we mean by that? We think about it, again, along 3 dimensions. It's kind of reflective of the model you saw before. The capacity for understanding systems and complexity ideas, the capacity for mapping out and analyzing, understanding complex systems, capacity to understand and work with transition processes and co-design, and ecosystem building, the capacity for building collaborative, purposeful innovation ecosystems. We think those are kind of key aspects that are needed to make systems innovation happen, and key capacities that we need. So that's what we mean by kind of capacity or ways of assessing that. Where does the data come from? So part of the reason we did this is because we're kind of uniquely positioned at SI to gain quite a bit of data. We're a website, and a lot of things on the back end is Google Analytics, which means we're able to capture a lot of the data. And we're quite a large community, 18,000, 19,000 members. And of course, we're called Systems Innovation, which means people are coming there specifically for this. So that's that. We also have quite a large social presence on the internet, social web. It's like 150,000 followers or so forth. So data come from the social web. That's our LinkedIn. The profile of the people who have followed our LinkedIn and what they say about themselves there. So that's 45, 50,000 people. Questionnaires like you just saw over the past 2 years, we've been doing questions on our website where people respond to those. And also the SI community, as mentioned, it's about 19,000 members now. They fill out their profiles, they give us data when they do that, and then we're able to use that to derive insight. So the way of kind of structuring it in terms of organizations, what we're assessing, should we say, it's individuals, what's their capacity, organizations, what's the capacity of organizations, sectors of the economy, right? Is this very prominent in healthcare or in energy or so forth, and geographies, which parts of the planet are these people who are interested in this stuff? And that's that little way, again, of structuring this framework for assessment. We could also ask questions about the level of capacity of organizations to be able to do this. And this is not something we have in this guide at the moment, but it's something we'll add in the future. And people have asked about it, that there are different types of systems innovation, should we say. And some is more basic and some is more advanced, right, is what we're getting at here. Some is more kind of the basics of just collaboration. We kind of characterize it down here. There's growing recognition in the world that we need to collaborate around these complex challenges. So we see quite a bit of this out there in the world. Networks of organizations getting together and saying we need to work together around this challenge. And some of these are called missions. It's kind of an ecosystem approach or portfolio approach. We see a lot of these Scandinavian countries, United Nations, so on and so forth. Quite a bit of that. We're saying that's kind of the starting level collaboration. The more advanced stuff, really brings in the ideas, really brings in the complexity science, really understands, how complex systems work so that we're able to work with them, and really understands transition processes and just stuff around networks, around self-organization, evolution, so on and so forth. That's a bit more advanced. We don't see too much of real systems innovation in that space, but if you want to make this stuff happen at a very large scale, you really need to bring all that in. So just starting to flesh that out a bit. What is the real systems innovation? What's the more advanced stuff, and the more basic stuff? Would take time to develop a kind of more comprehensive kind of framework around that. So this is just ideas at the moment, but put it in there for the moment. So that's that, a little bit about assessment and the framework we're using, and the data and so forth. Maybe I'll just stay going for the sake of time. Where are we? Half past already. So the first one, so the rest is broken out into these 4 here, right? So we're looking across these 4 dimensions and assessing who are these people is the first one, individuals. That's the first thing that people ask me, who are the people who are interested in this stuff? What background are they coming from? And this is some of the most interesting data for me, actually, is understanding what background are the people coming from. It's normally, the question that people ask first off. And we can see here, so this is actually taken from LinkedIn, and we analyze the profile, the header profile text of the members to see how many times this word appeared in their profile. So you can see there, design 7,395 times versus management, innovation, research, consultants, people working in the area of sustainability and engineering. So some of this is really a combination of this data like this, but also intuition, right? I've been talking to people for a long time. I see their profile and so forth over the past 5 years. And we see also, we have a lot of data around events, right? What events do people join? What posts do people like? So on and so forth. We haven't necessarily captured all that in data, but it builds a great intuition. And we know that designers is really the big one here, is where people are coming from. They're very interested in what comes after design thinking. How do we move beyond human-centered design to kind of a more systemic kind of design? And systems innovation intersects with that hugely. Management are asking a lot about how do we change organizations? How do we do management differently? How do we, change their organization? Of course, a lot of people from innovation and entrepreneurship kind of background, ecosystem building attracted, and a lot of researchers and so on. So it kind of matches the intuition around this. Happy to take a question there if you have any. Any questions? So everybody happy so far? Does this make sense to everyone? Is this what you would have expected, or was there something missing there? Okay. Maybe I'll stay going. So this question we asked, what's your level of understanding? Trying to assess that. Data represents self-selected levels of understanding of systems innovation from the LinkedIn poll in 2023. And you can see that there. So I would just take this as a snippet, right? These are the people who are following us on LinkedIn. So it's obviously not like going out on the street and asking your average person. So it is what it is. You can see 36% there understand some of the ideas. Have good understanding. I'm working on applying it. So we have a lot of people who are a bit more advanced and on our LinkedIn and kind of intermediate. So that's that. Which areas are you most interested in this kind of world of systems thinking and systems change? This is asked with the members on the website. Most of them are interested in systems thinking, then systems change, and systems innovation, systems design, just to give you an idea of that. Inky, did you have a question you wanted to, you could ask out loud if you wanted. or there's another person with their hand raised. Shan, yeah.
Oh, I'm just curiously, like, you know, when people are talking about system thinking or system mapping or system changing or system innovation or design, do they really understand the difference? Or they just because they expose those words more often?
Yeah, so some people do, some people don't. If you're new to this area, you probably don't really understand the difference too much. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the words themselves can tell you the difference, right? System thinking is about thinking, and system change is about changing systems. There's a nuance then between system change, systems innovation, as we looked at, and obviously systems design is coming from design and that. But as you say, not always the case that people understand the difference.
Yeah, that's really relied to me because I'm IT. I was like, oh, people are talking about big data. I mean, because they're catching words, like they use that all the time. Yeah, but really don't know.
Well, yeah, well, that's the challenge of a new field, isn't it? And the need for education, need for awareness, and all of this for sure. Yeah. Florian, would be interesting to know what percentage per professional's work, e.g. in public versus private. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute, talking about organizations. Okay, any other questions at this time, or we still going? Good. So that was individuals, and this is getting to organizations. What type of organizations are they working for? This is from LinkedIn. We get the data around, yeah, so the people who follow our LinkedIn channel, you can look at them and sort them according to the type of organization they work for. I don't think that's a perfect view. I think there are other ones that we'll look at here, but it's one view. So higher education was the main one, business consulting, IT services, government administration, non-for-profit, and research services. To me, that's somewhat useful, but incomplete. This was another one. This data represents the answers of 293 members of the SI networks. This is a poll on our website. We asked, I would like to contribute to bringing systems innovation ideas into practice in, and 36% said my company, 21, or my organization, 21 said government, and non-for-profit 13, academia 16, and other 11. So that's that. People also often ask who are some of the organizations working in this space. And this is a very incomplete, very, very incomplete little schema of that. It was just to get started with it. So on the bottom, where the x-axis is talking about whether it's academic or how applied it is, and horizontal or the vertical axis is about, is this more systems change or is this more systems innovation? Nadim, did you have a question there? More complete, which one?
Yeah, no, a more complete map than the one you're mentioning, like just now, because you said it's very incomplete. Yeah, exactly.
Not that I know of, but I'm going to develop this. So posted this today, and people started adding to it already. So actually, LinkedIn's great for collective intelligence. If you post this sort of thing, a lot of interest, and you just ask people, do you know other organizations? So definitely going to pick up what people are posting today on LinkedIn, because there's some really good ones, and just stay building upon it. Right, the whole thing's first iteration, but yeah. But to answer your question, I don't actually. I don't. Yeah, unfortunately.
If this is already on LinkedIn, I'll add also on LinkedIn, and then hopefully follow that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Well, you'd know a few, right? So to do that. So yeah, just to give you a little snippet. Climate Kick is really the largest, most kind of advanced organization that's doing systems innovation. They say they're doing systems innovation. I think they are. The European Union's So if we zoom in here, European Union's innovation ecosystem for addressing climate change, working to accelerate the transition to net zero world, particularly working with cities across Europe. They have an ecosystem of about 400 plus institutions like universities, cities, regions, academia, and so forth across Europe. And there are about 200 people maybe in that organization, and doing probably the most, at the largest scale, sort of systems innovation stuff out there in the world. It's very applied. They're really trying to address this climate crisis across Europe in a holistic way. So it's probably the most sophisticated organization. We have others, Forum for the Future here in London. They're particularly a non-for-profit working around sustainability, bringing together business, government, and civil society. They did a lot for inventing this whole idea of systems innovation. They were the early kind of pioneers of it. Except in the Netherlands, more around systemic design, but doing really interesting design projects, particularly around sustainability, but systems change, metabolic in the Netherlands, Cora Foundation. They design a lot of the systems change kind of programs for the United Nations and others. Rio's partners, Wicked Labs, small one in Australia, but interesting stuff. Dark Matter Labs here in London. So then going over here is more academic. We have Drift in the Netherlands. It's part of a university there, looking at transition processes and trying to understand those. Systems Innovation Initiative, School of Systems Change, really good place to learn about systems change. Griffith Centre in Australia, Skoll Centre for Social Entrepreneurship here at Oxford, and they do map the system and try to help people learn about systems, social entrepreneurs learn about systems change. So that's that. As I said, it's just a snippet. Hopefully build upon that in the future. Yeah, we might take a little break again so that we can hear from you, any of your thoughts at this time. Maybe just take another minute. It's great to see we've got how many 50 plus people in the room. So I'd love to hear what you're thinking about this at this stage. Anything you'd like to share, any comments or questions. Let's just take 1 minute to post up there. Okay. So most of these are located in the global north. How can we bring systems innovation into the global south? Good one. Who is this? Would you like to add on that at all? We'll be looking at the map now in a minute. Okay. What would be interested to map out where in the world these organizations are based? Yes. What does the ecosystem of organizations working in systems innovation look like? Yeah, are they working together? That's a good question. I think more innovation agencies are adopting systems innovation as a practice in Sweden, at least. Yeah, Sweden's an interesting place for this, and particularly quite advanced at the kind of mission stuff. But just to give you an idea, a question about where these organizations are, I could just quickly run through that. We'll see it now. The epicenter of all this is around UK and the Netherlands, and then maybe on to Sweden. So if we look at a lot of these, that's where you'll find them. Climate Kickers across Europe, but based in Amsterdam. Forum for the Future based in London, except just near to Amsterdam. Metabolic in Amsterdam. Cora Foundation, I think they're in the Netherlands also. Rio's partners are based in Switzerland, but they're global. Wicked Labs is in Australia. Dark Matter Labs in London. Netherlands, London, Australia, UK, Oxford. So yes, we'll see that in a minute. The geographical dispersion of this is quite a bit here in Europe, but a few other places. I wonder if this community now, you could ask how others can add suggestions into your map or add to this now. Well, that's it. We'd love to hear your feedback about all of this, right? Maybe the space up here is a good one. If you'd like to add anything, that we could put into this or change the framework, that would be great.
Or you can even add it next to the specific page or specific chapter.
Yeah. Just post a sticky on the slide. How can collaborators go about designing a new ecosystem that fits their specific project? I would like to know why universities, we'll come back to that. I would be interested to track job postings as well and role distributions with various organizations. Yes, that is something. We don't have a marketplace for, jobs and job seekers and job providers. And it's something we kind of do informally. People ask and we have connections, but it'd be great to see that happen. I would add the what for question. Their intentions should be mapped. How does one measure a successful holistic systems innovation? What makes a company a big name in the field? So I would like to know why universities have difficulties in teaching systems innovation or systems thinking too. I would suggest asking for more than one geography, one job description, as many of us or those. Okay, we'll come back to that one. So to reach this, in South Africa, look at, Bertha School of Social Entrepreneurship, may not call themselves SI, but may lead to an African view. I think that happens a lot. There is sometimes feet to call it systems innovation. Okay. Maybe we stay going for now. Yes, we've got other organizations up here. Nadim doing great work and adding in others that weren't there. UNDP Accelerator Labs. A lot of stuff going on in Switzerland, or in Finland, I should say. Citra, that's the innovation agency. Vinnova is the innovation agency for both of those are the national innovation agencies, which are starting to become interested in this. Given our London hub, we have a few from Innovate UK and so forth. Nesta, maybe very debatable. So let's stay going. Talk about locations. This is some of the most interesting data. Where are these people? What's going on where? And this heat map from our website is kind of the most useful, I'd say. So these are the members of the SI network. They registered on the website, which implies that they're interested in this. And we can see in Europe is as mentioned, the epicenter. Of course, there's a lot of people living there directly in southern UK and the Netherlands through Belgium. So obviously it's tracking those sorts of things. It's tracking to some extent economic development and, connection to internet and so on and so forth. So a lot of stuff going on behind this. Definitely to some extent, it's tracking, you know, innovation economies. You can see that. But we can also see India's one that stands out. So we've actually got it here on the next slide. These are the main kind of areas that that's data, but it's also intuition for me, where I talk to a lot of people, and certainly here across Europe. And then East Coast of the United States, Toronto is actually quite a bit of an epicenter. And then you go down, yeah, Boston, New York, Washington, so forth. And then India, from Mumbai to Bangalore. We have a lot of people from India in the network. And then Australia is actually surprising. Sydney and Melbourne are very high up on the list of cities. I don't know if I have them here. Yeah, so there we go. We'll go back to the heat map in a minute, but this is quite a useful one. This is the main city regions. You're talking metropolitan areas, the larger metro area of SI LinkedIn followers. You see 3.6% from London and 2.9%. The Randstad is kind of the larger metro area of everything from Rotterdam to Amsterdam and a few other cities in the Netherlands. But then you can see it's all Sydney and Melbourne. Bangalore and New York City, Toronto, and also Brazil too, Sao Paulo and Bogota in Latin America. And but these cities generally, like places like Copenhagen, Stockholm, that are very progressive on social. I mean, Stockholm's an epicenter of social innovation. They're trying to build themselves as like a hub for social impact startups. And Copenhagen is really big for environmental innovation, sustainable innovation. So places like that are really conducive to this. And you can also talk about cultures too. Maybe you want to go into that now. But we can see definitely England and London is, I actually moved here because of that. I used to live in Barcelona and discovered all the systems innovators who are in this part of the world. So I moved here. We're fortunate to have a lot of great people in a good environment. But there we have it, spread around the world. And going back to the heat map, that's what it looks like more specifically. Any questions or comments on this one we'd like to discuss? Does that make sense? I mean, it's interesting, as I said, the cultural aspect of it. You know, I talked to a lot of people and we've set up hubs in a lot of different areas. And of course, we need to be careful with biases and so forth and prejudice when we talk about different cultures. But systems innovation obviously thrives in, you know, open society, should we say. It's very much reflective of the democratic approach to doing things, right? This collaborative approach. So we have struggled in setting up hubs in Saudi Arabia or places like this. It's not to say it's not possible. It's just that it is challenging in, you know, authoritarian and very hierarchical environments and cultures. Not impossible. I mean, we talked to different hubs around the world. In Singapore, they say it's quite challenging because that also is quite a hierarchical society. It's quite a structured, ordered, managed kind of society. So there's they find challenges there, but there's definitely people interested. We have a great hub there. India is very receptive to this, actually. Australia too. And then the European culture kind of fits with it very, very naturally. Specifically the Dutch and English one and the Scandinavian ones. The US is an interesting case study. We don't have any hubs in the United States. People often ask why. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, maybe we won't unpack all of those considerations at the moment. It definitely resonates a lot in Brazil, I would say. We have a big Spanish-speaking community also, and a great hub in Cape Town at this time. Also, and across Africa, there's interest. Yeah, Shan.
Because I'm doing maps, I noticed the observation from the density, the heat map is that the density of population really kind of impact how people think about the bigger system? Like if you say European and also like East Coast of US is really more dense area. So yeah. I just draw the correlation, but it may not the case.
Well, the correlation is not that they think differently because there are lots of people there. It's because there are lots of people there. So there's going to be more people online. There's going to be more people logging into the SI network. That's the kind of connection I'm making. It's like there's no one living. There's not many people. I didn't say no one. There's not many people living in East Russia or Mongolia, right? So we obviously haven't got a lot of SI users there. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And we don't really know about China because I think the app for the website is banned there. So some of it's, quite a bit, it's probably coming through VPN. So it's coming from other places, but yeah. Okay, so any other questions there? Are we happy with that? We could move on. Pedro, it's important having a digital print in Sudan and Ethiopia would be interesting and relevant, reaching some people on the Sahel region. Yep. Okay, so that's about geographies, and then finally about what sectors, what areas are they interested in. I think this is some of the more interesting data also. A little bit challenging to collect this. So this is again looking at the LinkedIn profiles of those 45,000 plus people, and just a little bit of data text analysis. So it's kind of a word cloud, this one. So it's pulling out those words, how many times they appeared in their text profile. So we can see obviously things around climate, education, healthcare is one also. Environments, a lot of people come from sustainability kind of area. Governance, food, circular economy. These are big ones. Cities, people are interested in. Fields of INCI, wonder about the fields of urban studies and design innovation moving into systems innovation. Yes, so that's part of it, right? As people from across different areas bump up against complexity, they're finding they have to find new ways to deal with that, and they're finding, like, I find design a good area, service design, right? The systems they're dealing with are becoming more and more complex. They're more dispersed across more organizations. They have more factors, sustainability factors, and ESG or whatever it is, factors to incorporate. So their job is becoming more and more like a systems innovator. They have to work across these organizations in very complex systems. So you see that in different areas. In public sector too, right? Their challenges are getting bigger and how to bring together more stakeholders and so forth. So it's really interesting how different fields start to intersect with this and feed into it, as you're noting there. Urban studies in cities also. Okay, so that's about sectors and kind of challenges that people are looking at, social innovation there too. And that is actually all for now. People, did you add this here, Anya?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so this is the questions and answers section. So we would invite all of those that want to ask a question. Slowly you can raise your hand, and also we are really happy to receive any kind of feedback. So here on the left we do have a kind of a feedback table, and would be great to hear from your perspective if you have any comments about this session, and also if you have any suggestions on how to improve the paper. If you've noticed a perspective we might have missed, feel free to add comments next to those pages specifically, or also add comments just on this section here in the feedback section. So I'll open up this session now for any questions. So as service designers, I see a comment. As service designers, we often consider unintended consequences. Is this really relevant to their discipline? Yes, I would say it's very relevant to consider all kinds of consequences through actions, and just also the influences that one might have with any innovation. Joss, do you want to comment on that?
No, I was just reading through these. So this one here, is it not complicated to understand? It is complicated to communicate it.
Yeah, that was
It's a
from me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a communications challenge rather than understanding challenge. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
takes good communications to deal with complex topics like this. Does someone want to comment on this one? I'm not sure I fully understand. Oh, that's you. Do you want to mention that, Anya?
So I actually took that from one of the comments in the chat. So whoever wrote that and wants to comment, raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. I guess we'll move on to the next one. Yeah.
Interesting to know, public-private sector. Louis Klein, do you want to jump in?
Yes, I could. You wanted to kind of feedback. I very much love what you're doing there. It is that kind of intelligence that the field needs. What I come up with is an invitation to broaden the scope a bit into a little bit into the first, a little bit into the past, going to what systems engineering came up with. And though at the very beginning it was more about parts and plugging them together, the level of reflection, especially when we go to operations research and quality management, is amazing. Second, that goes not into the past but into the future, to consider a bit the widening of the gaze between first order cybernetics and second order cybernetics, where the first order cybernetics are very much linked to system dynamics, leverage points, Donald Meadows, and all of that, to look into the epistemological change to see how do we facilitate an innovation in understanding. It goes unnoticed, and if we look at what we're doing here, it's very present yet not reflected, and to have that distinction between leverage points on the one hand and mind shift on the other. And last but not least, the third feedback, I left it in the chat. There has been a paper 2 years ago by Gerald Midgley on systemic innovation, where he goes to a systems perspective on systemic innovation. Because well, there is a reason why it's not systems innovation, but what I like about it is that he runs through the different systems perspectives on innovation and gives a bit more structure to the field. As are we looking at systems that we innovate? Are we looking at a systemic way to innovate, and so on? And I think these 3 points I bring forward as an innovation to continue that very, very good work that you started, and reaching out to other groups which haven't been, we saw that earlier, the engineers were sort of a group lingering in the background, though they would very, very much benefit from what they would find here. So, well, ample potential. Go for it.
Thanks. Thanks, Louis. Great points about systems engineering, you know, and I think you kind of know there's problems integrating them into the rest of the system stuff, isn't there? Because sometimes engineering has a legacy of reductionism, and then there's a lot of complications there about integrating them, but there's a lot of interest too. And we haven't really cracked that nut in terms of how to better integrate them into the the broader kind of ecosystem that we're developing here, because a lot of people are coming from a kind of human-centered kind of perspective of things and what we're doing and how can we change human systems and so forth. So sometimes it's really difficult to integrate them, but much needed, because engineers kind of build a lot of our worlds and they aren't going too far if we don't. And bring in, as you say, all the knowledge that they've developed over the years. And I think also the second sticky, you get into all that's been developed in systems thinking and systems theory and all the work that your people do at International Federation of Systems Science. So it would be great to team up with you, though, at some stage and think about how to do a kind of systems, a more systems thinking also side of this. Too challenging, as I'm sure you know, because it's changes in culture, isn't it? How do you capture changes in culture and changes in thinking? I'm sure it's possible, but challenging itself. And maybe I'll move on from there. There's a question in the comments here. What about language barriers? Yep. That are linked to culture, as Joss raises. In France, we talk of Mr. Jordan. You can be doing SI without calling it as much. How can we open up to other languages? Yeah, it's a question we deal with daily in the SI network. France is a good example. Paris is just, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 27 minutes on the train from here. And it seems like a different world when you go there because of those language, those cultural divides. So great points. And we do think about culture almost on a daily basis because we're dealing with these hubs all around the world, and how different cultures respond to it is really, really interesting. Rosanna?
Yes, I just want to say that I'm also very interested in how systems engineering can be included in the rest of the society. In Linköping University, we are looking at systems of systems engineering, so it's a little bit more on the systems level and how that will be influenced by the external factors and how it is influencing the environment. So yeah, I'm also interested in that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions this time? It's not, oh yeah, I think we covered that one. Anybody else want to add?
And if you want to ask a question right now, if something comes to your mind, you may also unmute yourself.
We're a little bit over time, so we'll wrap up soon.
Yeah, it's Julian from New Zealand. And I was the one who asked the questions about systems, cracking systems implementation and the systems processes to actually get into the minutiae of actually how it could really help what is perceived to be systems nowadays compared to what systems future can be.
So by processes, do you mean like methods for doing this and kind of tools and so forth to support it?
Yeah, I'm talking about, like when I said seamless navigation and implementation, there's a lot of things going on in the space, particularly of climate, climate mitigation and all these sort of things. But how do we actually bring this together so it fits in the values of the economics, the climate, futuristic ways and means and methods that can all be brought together?
Yeah, well, that's it. And there's no simple solution to that, right? It's really about building a field because you need awareness, you need learning, you need capacity to do this stuff, you need tools, you need a community, you need consultants, you need facilitators, you need organizations. If you're really going to do this at scale, right, to really unlock the potential of this stuff, we need to build a whole ecosystem, a whole community. So it's not one thing, even though we need a lot more awareness and education. It is a lot of different things, and that's why we talk about the community. We'll wrap up now, but Shan, did you want to have a final comment?
Because I just relate to the system innovation. Because when we're talking about system, we always thinking about all different moving parts. It's like very complex. People kind of scared, what if I miss something? So I'm wondering, the system innovation is kind of evolving process. It's more like process driven. Even at the beginning, first round, we are not include all the components, so maybe next round we have more people involved, more organization involved. So how you think about this?
Yeah, well, great question. I'm not sure we have full time to cover it now. We're gonna wrap up. Maybe we'll have a chance to chat some other time, Sian, about that. Rosanna, did you want to add or? No? Okay.
No, thanks.
Okay, so it's from before. Okay, Anya, do you want to tell us about this?
Yes, so we would love to hear your feedback. If you have some extra time after this session, you can continue to use this Miro board as well to leave all kinds of comments. And hopefully we can get a bit of your feedback so we can reiterate and create better events for you as well. Hopefully we will also keep in touch. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time, for joining, and also especially thank you for any sort of feedback we would receive. It just makes the experience richer for everyone, and also hopefully you can also we encourage you to have a critical mind here and also help us with improving our content on this paper. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope that you gained something from this session.
Great. So just the feedback, you just drag a couple of questions there, drag your sticky yes or no, and if you type something on it like Caramal is doing there. Great.
Yes, the yes or no fosters dualistic thinking, which we kind of try to avoid. So you can also craft a longer, different kind of answer. Great.
Super. Okay, we leave it there. It was great seeing everyone, and look forward to seeing you again at a future event. You'll find the paper